Good evening, everyone. I'd like to invite you to the Wicomico County Legislative Session at April 6, 2021. If everyone would, please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Ms. Hurley, would you please read the items of the consent agenda?
Good evening, Mr. President, council members, ladies and gentlemen. There are 8 items on the council agenda this evening. We have the legislative minutes from March the 16th, 2021, open work session minutes from February the 16th, 2021, pertaining to increase to the 911 fee, open work session minutes from February the 16th, 2021, pertaining to a letter of support for the holder of a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license to sell beer, wine, and liquor on Sundays from 6 a.m. to midnight. Open work session minutes from February the 16th, 2021, pertaining to council discussion on the capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2022 through 2026. Open work session minutes from February the 16th, 2021, pertaining to a lease agreement with the Wicomico Equestrian Club, Ltd. Open work session minutes from February 16th, 2021, on proposed charter provisions for discussion with the Charter Review Committee. Open work session minutes from February the 16th, 2021, pertaining to a letter of support for Salisbury Christian Shelter's request for legislative bond funding. Closed work session minutes from February the 2nd, 2021, pertaining to a personnel matter on an evaluation.
Need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. The consent agenda passes unanimously. This time I'd like to recognize a former colleague of mine, Mr. Tony Sarbanes, former president of the Wicomico County Council. Welcome. Good to see you. Mr. Cannon, could you do the proclamation for Mrs. Shante for her years of service with the NAACP? And anyone else in the audience that has proclamations for Mrs. Shante?
Good evening. It is indeed a pleasure to be able to read this proclamation for our most deserving individual in this county. I don't think in my entire time in politics I've met anyone who I feel truly has the interests of this county and our communities at heart. And not only that, but has succeeded and achieved those goals in making sure that she's addressed every issue that she felt needed to be addressed in the entire county, in this community. And I'm sure that impact, Mary, has gone well beyond Wicomico County. We appreciate all the work that you've done. We have a proclamation for you tonight. I first met President Shani when I first started running in 2006. And of course, if you run for office, you know there's going to be an NAACP forum, and you'd better be ready to present yourself, right? That was just one example of that. She has Freedom Fund banquets that run continuously, whether she's involved in the local Chamber of Commerce, whether she's involved in the Board of Education, or it's public safety. I don't think there's anything that Mary doesn't find herself getting into completely. She works with the churches and the community. It's never ending. Standing behind her is Asmar, her husband. Pleasure to have you here tonight as well. I'm going to read the proclamation, and now I have one, and then there's one from the county, and we also have one that's from the General Assembly, and another one from the Governor's Office, okay? If there's a representative from the Governor's Office or the General Assembly that would like to present the one proclamation, please do. That would be you, okay. Hang on a second, where are my glasses? What are they?
Save you if you need a.
Got it, right here, thanks.
All right.
Gotta have the glasses.
Here we go.
It takes a village.
Whereas Mary Ashani served as president of the Wicomico County branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, from 1996 until her retirement on December 17, 2020, and whereas a member of the NAACP since 1974, Mrs. Ashanti has held several branch, regional, and state posts. She serves on the executive committee of the Wicomico County branch of the NAACP currently and served 12 years as the co-coordinator of the Maryland Eastern Shore Coalition of NAACP branches. And whereas Mrs. Ashanti was recognized with the Unsung Hero Award in 1988 and 1989, received the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award in 2004, and the Outstanding Community Leader of the Year Award in 2006, she was honored with both the Leadership Award and the Dream Team Award in 2015 and received the Enola P. McMillan Women in NAACP Award in 2016. And whereas a community activist since the 1970s, Mrs. Ashani has championed on various issues involving the protection of civil rights. She is a registered nurse with 30 years of service to the community and has served in the United States Army Reserves, the Wicomico County Department of Social Services Advisory Committee, and the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. Now, therefore, the Wicomico County Council and the acting county executive hereby congratulate Mrs. Mary Ashanti on her retirement and wish to extend their gratitude for years of exemplary service to the community, done the 6th day of March, 2021.
I'm going to make my comments now. Giving honor to God, thanking Him for the opportunity to be here, to President Dodd and council members, and to everyone assembled, good evening. As mentioned, my name is Mary Ashanti. I am a civil rights, human rights advocate, and have been for over 42 years. I thank the county council for this recognition. And I also thank my husband, family, and the community for all their support. I accept this honor on behalf of all of the branch executive committee members who have been on this 24-year journey with me. I appreciate the hard work and long hours with no monetary pay. I pray that God rewards each of them for their sacrifices. And next, on behalf of the branch, we greatly appreciate the businesses and organizations and fraternities that have supported us. And just to name a few, the Marvel African American Pride Magazine, Minuteman Press, Chipman Cultural Center, Queen City Lodge, VFW 10159, Pohanka, Wicomico County Public School System, and Bremer Hair Studios. And lastly, I won't name individuals because I might end up missing someone. But I just want to say a leader is only as effective as the people that follow, advise, and support him or her. I have been blessed this past 24 years to have worked with great people. Thank you. And I also want to introduce, raise your hand or come up. Jerry Bell has been on the executive committee. The secretary, Dion Church, and you met my husband, Asma. Thank you.
Greetings,
Greetings.
County Council President, members, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sharika Harris, District Representative 37A for Madam Speaker Pro Tem, Delegate Cherie Sample Hughes, I bring you all greetings on her behalf. We gather here today to honor Mary Ashanti for her years of dedication as president of the Wicomico County branch of the NAACP. Her community activism has gained national and state recognition, and tonight we honor her locally for her tenacious efforts for equality for the citizens of Wicomico County. Through your actions of advocacy and consistent commitment to equality in various sectors, you have paved the way for those who now walk in your footsteps. Delegate Sample Hughes offers her sincerest congratulations for your 24 years of service. Now tonight, your citation reads as thus. The Maryland General Assembly official citation, be it hereby known to all, sincerest congratulations are offered to you, Mary Ashanti, in recognition of 24 years of service as president of the Wicomico County NAACP Branch 7028. Your unwavering dedication and outstanding community activism for equality are immeasurable. Presented to you on this day, the 6th day of April 2021 by Delegate Cherie Sample Hughes of the Dorchester and Wicomico Counties Legislative District 37A. Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you'd like to come up closer, you can come as close as you want. You're not interrupting anything. That's okay. The next citation was presented, Senator Addie Eckert brought it in, and I'm going to read it for her. This is from the Maryland General Assembly. It's an official citation. It says, be it hereby known to all that sincerest congratulations are offered to Mary Ashanti in recognition of your 24 years as the president of the Wicomico County branch of the NAACP. That's longer than Councilman Hastings has been alive. That's my guess, Josh.
I wish.
24 years of service as president of the Wicomico County branch of the NAACP. Thank you for your service and dedication to our community. Congratulations on your retirement, presented on this 6th day of April 2021 by the Wicomico County Senate delegation, signed by Senator Eckert and Senator Mary Beth Carrozza. There you go. Come on in, get a little closer. Okay, and the final citation we have is from the state of Maryland. This is from the governor's office, the governor of the state of Maryland, to Mary Ashanti. Greetings, be it known that on behalf of the citizens of this state, in recognition of your 24 years of dedicated and outstanding service you have made on behalf of the NAACP, in appreciation of the expertise, professionalism, and commitment you have demonstrated throughout your distinguished career, and as the people of Maryland join together in expressing our great respect, admiration, and sincere best wishes on the occasion of your retirement, we are pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation. Signed by Governor Larry Hogan.
First, I want to just ask God to bless everyone that comes in this building. And next, I'd like to ask that we do a moment of silence for Judge Normally Barkley. And I just want to thank each and every one of you. And I'll just ask that the current president, if she was staying, Ms. Dr. Bronte DeShield, who is the current president of the branch. And yes, I have retired from being president of the NAACP. But you know I'm not going anywhere. You'll be seeing me here.
That's a good thing.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Ms. Ashante, for many years of service to the county. As you may know, the General Assembly's in session, and that's why the members of the delegation weren't here, and we have a representative from Cherie Sample Hughes' office, so thank you for coming. All right, at this time, you have a proclamation to recognize April as Child Abuse Prevention Month, and Mr. Josh Hastings, you can do that. I don't know if Ms. Dykes is here, but we can go ahead and do it anyway for the record.
Do we have anybody from the state's attorney's office? We got a big crowd outside this door.
I know. Well, she hadn't signed in yet.
Well, assuming maybe not, then we have this proclamation for National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And it is written, where it is estimated nationally that more than 1,540 children die each year from child abuse and neglect. Whereas child abuse is considered to be a serious public health problem, with studies documenting the link between abuse and a wide range of medical, emotional, physiological, and behavioral disorders. Whereas child abuse prevention is a community responsibility that requires partnership among various governmental and community-based agencies. Everyone can be involved in child abuse prevention by supporting local agencies that work with children. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the acting county executive and the Wicomico County Council proclaim April 2021 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month, done this day, the 6th day of April, signed by the County Council. So, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Now, this time we have a proclamation to recognize April as Autism Acceptance Month, and we should have Miss Renee Everett Sanzone. There she is. Miss Ackley.
Autism is something you cannot see. Those with autism look just like you and I. But in their mind, the world looks very different. It tastes different, it sees different, and it feels different. They're engineers, they're doctors, they're public servants. Now, acceptance is the new word, not just awareness, I've been told. So, Renee Santos from Parents Place in Maryland is here to accept this proclamation for Autism Acceptance Month. Whereas autism spectrum disorder is a neurological and developmental disorder that affects communication and behavior and is an urgent public health crisis that demands support from all levels of government. Whereas symptoms of autism may present themselves in a variety of combinations and can result in significant lifelong impairments of an individual's ability to learn, develop healthy, interactive behaviors, and understand verbal and nonverbal communications. Whereas the Center for Disease Control and Prevention reports that 1 in 59 school-aged children have been identified with autism spectrum disorder. Whereas Wicomico County is committed to ensure that people living with autism have access to lifelong care and services needed to pursue their full potential. Therefore, Wicomico County Council and the County Executive are honored to take part in observation of Autism Acceptance Month, and the hope that we will lead to be an understanding of this disorder.
Thank you.
Just real quick, Miss Ackley's correct. It has changed. We've always heard it as autism awareness, right? But when you have 1 in 59, we really do need to move to acceptance. And acceptance, it may seem like a small word, but I think in the shadow of Ms. Ashante's service to the NAACP, it's really about a journey of equity that we really all must take so that we can understand and celebrate all of the differences of all of our young folks with autism, our adults with autism, and all folks with disabilities. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now we have Mr. Ernie Davis offering a proclamation to recognize the month of April as Fair Housing Month. We should have Miss Lori Carter in the audience. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is a fitting proclamation, being that we're discussing within the council how the housing market in Wicomico is very short, and from the work that they do over in Lori's office in the City of Salisbury, is very fitting for this proclamation to be read to them for the work they do. Whereas the National Fair Housing Act of 1968 prohibits discrimination in the sale, rental, and financing of housing based on race, color, religion, or gender, individuals with disability, and families with children, and whereas the principle of fair housing is a fundamental human concept and entitlement for all people, it recognizes the contributions, richness tendered by a wide variety of people from diverse backgrounds, colors, ethnicity, and religious traditions. Now, therefore, the Wicomico County Council and the Acting County Exec proclaim April 2021 as Fair Housing Month, and in an effort to raise awareness for fair housing for all, encourage all citizens to support putting an end to housing discrimination done this 6th day of April 2021.
I just want to thank Wicomico County for all of the support that you have provided the citizens of Wicomico in making sure that fair housing laws are practiced, and that you are very much in support of knowing that fair housing matters. Again, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'd like to just add one thing because he's here. I see Mr. Sarbanes, who was with me when I first started with the county. And because he always picks at me, and this is my grand opportunity to get him back. Just ask him how bad I beat him in basketball.
Oh, boy.
He challenged me to a game of one-on-one and I won.
All right. Now we have Mr. Bill McCain offering a proclamation to recognize April 5th through 11th, 2021 as National Public Health Week. We should have Miss Lori Brewster. There she is, the health officer.
How are you this evening? Yeah. How fitting is it that we are recognizing public health here this evening? In fact, I was almost tempted to cross out Public Health Week and make this just Public Health Year, because it was almost exactly 1 year ago that all our lives basically got turned upside down, and Lori's life definitely got turned upside down. And we just can't thank you enough for what you've had to deal with over this past year and how you've served our community. And the thanks just, there's just not enough that can be said. So thank you very much. So this proclamation is to recognize this week as National Public Health Week, and it reads as the following. Whereas the week of April 5th through the 11th, 2021 is National Public Health Week. Since 1995, the American Public Health Association has educated the public, policymakers, and public health professionals about issues important to improving the public health. Whereas public health professionals help communities prevent, prepare for, withstand, and recover from the impact of a full range of health threats, including disease outbreaks, and whereas public health action, together with scientific and technological advances, has played a major role in reducing the spread of infectious disease, and whereas 60% of Americans live with a preventable chronic disease and preventable health risks, such as smoking and obesity, and are the primary reasons for deaths in the United States. Now, therefore, the acting county executive and the Wicomico County Council hereby proclaim the week of April 5th through the 11th as National Public Health Week in Wicomico County, and call upon the citizens of Wicomico County to better understand the value of public health. Want to say a few words?
Just want to say what a difference a year makes. I would venture to guess that last year a lot of people didn't know what public health was.
but public health has been on the job for the last year plus. And on behalf of all of the men and women of the health department and the hospital that are doing population health, I want to say thank you for the recognition today, and I will certainly get this back to our staff so that they can see that they were recognized today. We will continue being on the job until our job is done, and I just want to say that COVID is not the only thing that we are addressing right now. We're still addressing all of the chronic disease that's occurring in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we have a proclamation to recognize April 11th through the 17th, 2021 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. And we have Mr. Chris Hopkins, Chief Communications Supervisor at Wicomico County 911. So if you've ever had the opportunity to dial 911, there's a good possibility that this young man was on the other end of the phone speaking to you. And they do an excellent job, and a lot of people don't realize that they're there for us 24 hours a day, and they are your first link to your emergency. So with that said, this proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, whereas National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week recognizes the dedicated men and women who answer the calls for help at 911 centers across the country. And whereas 911 specialists provide the first critical contact for those in need of emergency services and in the midst of a crisis to obtain vital information from callers to rapidly link them to first responders and sometimes dispense vital life-saving information themselves. And whereas the Wicomico County Department of Emergency Services employs highly trained and dedicated 911 specialists who are on duty 24 hours a day, every day of the year, and often go unrecognized for the work that they perform, which enhances the safety of this entire community. Now, therefore, the Acton County Executive and the Wicomico County Council hereby proclaim the week of April 11th through the 17th, 2021 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Wicomico County, and we thank all the 911 specialists for their dedicated service to the community. Done this 6th day of April, 2021, signed by the Acton County Executive, Mr. John Pizzotta, and the entire County Council. Good job.
Well, thank you. I just want to speak for the whole entire staff of Wicomico 911. We appreciate the acknowledgement and continue to serve all the citizens in this county. Thank you.
Very much. And now we have proclamations for the volunteer fire departments in recognition of their service to the community during the COVID-19 pandemic. And if we'd have Mr. Joe Holloway to the podium, please, and the volunteers.
Good evening. Just wanted to say how fortunate Wicomico County is to have such a dedicated group of volunteer firefighters. And they're not all here. If they were, the rest of the county wouldn't be safe right now. So anyway, so Wicomico County Council, it's a great pleasure that the Acting County Executive and the members of the Wicomico County Council extend this certificate of appreciation to the volunteer firefighters of Wicomico County for your service and dedication during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for your hard work, positive attitude, and willingness to make sacrifices. We are all in this together. This is signed by John Pizzotta, Acting County Executive, and all the council members. You know, our volunteer firefighters and our EMTs in the county face a number of different obstacles in their jobs every day, serving the people of Wicomico County, and have done so for years. And then a year ago, something else came along that they had to be careful of. And it's through their dedication that the people all over Wicomico County can feel safer for, knowing that they're out there from all the first responders. So I want to thank you guys. I know some of the fire departments aren't represented here. We'll see to them that they get these, okay? So I'll start reading these off. Mardella? Nobody from Mardella? Here, John. Oh, Larry?
Come on, Kenny.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Kenny, go up there.
We'll get the fun, yeah. Allen? Nobody from Allen? Okay. Fruitland? Okay. That's fine. Parsonsburg? I'll take that one. I'll take it to them. Pittsville? All right, would you like to say something?
No, I'm good.
Sure? Okay. I know you're gonna leave it up to Rick to say something.
It's the first time you ever see him speechless.
Yeah. West Side? There you go. Thanks, sir. Dual recipient there tonight. Delmar? One from Delmar, there you go, Larry. Sharptown? There you go, thank you, sir. Would you like to say anything? No, thank you. Okay, thank you. Willards? Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Powellville? Sir. Who's that? Oh, that's John. Hey, John, how you doing, buddy? And Hebron? Take that. I'll see you. Thank you. Thank you. Again, thank you for all you do. Thank you.
And the departments that weren't here, they'll get their proclamation at the next county association meeting, which would be 2 weeks from tonight, I believe. All right. At this time, I have Wicomico County Youth Advisory Council members that are going to be introduced. Mr. Josh Hastings.
Stand right back here.
Go on up there.
So I'm happy to officially introduce the Wicomico County Youth Advisory Council. I've been the representative on this group for, I guess, a little over a year now. If the council remembers, we approved this back in, what was it, October 2019, somewhere around there?
Yes.
That we took the moment to actually then, we formed our own group, and then we went through the process to try to put out a public process to see who in the county, which students would want to be a part of this. I should also mention there's definitely one proud parent here. I should mention first, Grace Ackley was the very first leader of this group and did an amazing job carrying it over. I'll also point out, by the way, we have 2 other individuals who are our new current leader, Elijah Cockey, and of course Timmy Palmer, everyone knows community program director with youth and I always say it wrong. It's youth and children. Hold on. Partnerships for families and children. I always get it wrong. But we have a wonderful group, and I'll turn it over to Eli if you want. But I just want to say this is a great group. We have a very, very, very bright future here in Wicomico County. If you look at these individuals and what they are accomplishing and soon to accomplish. So I'll turn it over to Eli.
I'm going to steal it from Eli for a second. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure that I thank everyone because, especially my mom, Councilwoman Nicole Ackley, who, although I started politics a year before she did, and I do want to point that out because I was a member of the the Maryland Youth Advisory Council a year before she started. Okay, but no, she was tremendous help in helping me legislate the bylaws for the Wicomico Youth Advisory Committee. Josh Hastings, who took over from there, Mr. Palmer, who has been a tremendous help through all of this, Maggie Harkins, who she came over from the Maryland Youth Advisory Committee as well. I'm going to hand it over now to Elijah Cockey, who's our president, not me.
Thank y'all. I'm Elijah Cockey. I'm the current president of Wicomico Youth Advisory Commission. Yeah, it's really an honor to get to do this, represent the youth of Wicomico County. I want to thank Mr. Palmer and Mr. Hastings for helping us out, and also thank Grace for kind of showing me what I need to do this year, and thank you to all the other members for supporting me.
And You all are welcome to come up and introduce yourselves. Say anything you'd like.
Hi, my name is Lena Wagner, and I'm the Vice President for the Wicomico Youth Advisory Committee. I'm representative for District 5, and I attend Wicomico High School. I'm just super pumped to be here and be part of this committee and just bring forth new ideas, just to build relationship between teachers and students. And especially with COVID and online learning and virtual learning, there's just a whole new set of problems that I just really am excited to just talk about and hopefully bring forth new ideas. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Aditya Bhaskaran. I'm the secretary, and I represent District 4. And I've always had an interest in politics. It's always been really cool. And so being in this was a whole new experience. I'm actually learning many new things, and I'm actually starting to take more and more notes.
Good. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Maggie Harkins from District 2. I'm a senior at Parkside High School, and all I really wanted to say is thank you to Grace for bringing me onto this in the beginning. It's been really awesome getting to form this group and meet all these awesome young people, and I can't wait to see where they take it in the future.
Hello, my name is Mayana Whaley. I'm an 11th grader at Parkside High School, and I reside in District 3 of Wicomico County, and I am honored to be a part of this group because I can see some of the great things we will be able to achieve in the future, and I'm just really happy to be a part of that.
I'm Timothy Palmer. I'm the Community Program Coordinator for Wicomico Partnerships, Family and Children, and I have the amazing opportunity to help guide and assist this next generation of leaders, and I'm just happy to be along for the journey and the ride.
Yeah.
And we're going to grab one picture. I don't know if we can, Laura, are you able to get a picture of all us together? Yeah, you want to come stand right, come around the podium. And we'll stand here together.
I feel like it might be easier if we angle ourselves this way.
Yeah. Tall guys, I'll just stand back. Let's go.
All right, cool. Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
And for the record, by the way, all of you represent districts, and so do these council members here. So you come after their seat one day.
That's right.
Just kidding. Thank you, guys.
Their excitement is infectious, and I think they're going to do a great job. I'd like to thank the council members for the introductions and the proclamations. Thank you. Ms. Hurley?
Okay, the first item on the legislative agenda is a public hearing on resolution number 27-2021. This is authorizing the renaming of the Wicomico County Public Library's downtown branch to the Wicomico County Public Library's Paul S. Sarbanes branch. A public hearing notice was posted on the county's website and published in the Daily Times, stating that a public hearing would be held this evening. We have Dr. Michele Canopii, Chair of the Library Board of Trustees here, if there are any questions.
All right, this time we're going to open the floor for a public hearing for the renaming of the library. So if we have anyone that would like to speak.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Michele Canopii, and I'm just happy to be here this evening. Several months ago, actually the end of 2020, a suggestion came before us.
Can you pull your mask down a little bit?
Sure. A suggestion came before us to rename the library. And then again, after several months later, during our discussion, it didn't take long. The Sarbanes name is synonymous with integrity, respect for others, hard work, commitment. Just didn't take us long. And then once we started to look closer at the late senator's resume, so to speak. I mean, what an honor, not only for a Marylander, but someone from Wicomico County here in Salisbury, it didn't take long. So we hope that you will feel the same way and consider renaming the downtown branch the Paul Sarbanes, Senator Paul Sarbanes, any variation of that.
Any more comments? Yes, sir. You can go to the podium, please. Do you need help? No. Okay.
He's good.
My name is
Bill, can you help him with the mic?
my name is Nevins Todd, and I must say I'm honored to speak in behalf of Paul Sarbanes. He and I were students at Y-High, and Paul, I think, exemplifies what everybody thinks of as the American dream. There's no question that Paul was a superior student. He went from Y-High to Princeton. He got a Rhodes Scholar, went to Harvard, got a law degree, and from there he became ultimately a United States Senator for 30 years. Now, that's an incredible record. I think it's an honor that we consider naming the library for him. I had thought of many opportunities to honor Paul before he died. I did not mention them to him. Perhaps Tony did. But I was going to keep it a secret and surprise him if we got approval. But anyway, I hope this council will agree to honor a true American. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for speaking on his behalf. Do we have anyone else that wants to speak? Mr. Sarbanes? You don't have to, but I know you're here.
I better not use my notes. I'll be here too long. You know, we were born and raised in Salisbury, Y-High graduates, as Nevin said. And then Paul did the American dream, 10 years of college, all on scholarships. 32 people get picked for a Rhodes Scholarship every year across the country, 32. He was one of 32. And he was a very good athlete as well. People don't talk about that. He's a heck of a baseball and basketball player. And he played basketball at Princeton. When he finished Harvard, the opportunities were not in Salisbury as they were in Baltimore. So, you know, he ended up in Baltimore, served in the House of Representatives for 6 years, the Senate for 30. And the thing that I really want to emphasize, we're the sons of Greek immigrants. I'm a first-generation American. My parents were Greek immigrants. You know, they came to this country because of what it helped for them. And I'm going to get choked up. But anyhow, that was the American dream. You know, they had all three of us, there were three of us, all three went to college, have a lovely sister. She's the smartest one of the whole group, actually. And so she tells me I better say that. But, you know, when Paul, he served at a time when people honestly talked to each other. He got things done. He did a lot of things to help the state of Maryland. You know, I'm not going to go on and name them. But you know the most important thing? He provided personal service to people who had problems. And that's what it's all about when you get right down to it. One thing that I think will be in my mind, his name is going to be in the library, hopefully, will be in the library. I'm hoping maybe 15 years from now, some youngster will walk in there and he'll say, "Who is Paul Sarbanes?" And they'll say, "Well, look him up." He'll look him up and say, "Gee, he was a U.S. Senator from Salisbury, Maryland, went to Y-High. And his parents were Greek immigrants." And you know, my parents, they might say my parents were immigrants from, pick a place, pick any place you want. My parents were immigrants as well, just like that guy. And guess what? He finished high school, went to college, opened the doors, and look where he is. And maybe I can do the same thing someday. Thank you for considering him, and I hope you will adopt that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sarbanes. Have anyone else for public comments? Yes, sir.
John Wimbrough, a classmate of Paul's, and everything that's been said here is absolutely true. He's a great American. And I have one anecdote I don't even think Tony knows. We all grew up together. I was about 10, I guess. Paul was in the hospital. I think he'd had one of the childhood appendectomies or tonsillectomies or whatever. And it was the talk of the town. The nurses he had to spend 2 or 3 days in the hospital. And the nurses wanted to keep him comfortable, so could we get you some comic books or something like that? Paul wanted a newspaper. 10 years old. That's how early the path started that carried him through the United States Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any more comments? Any more comments? Okay. Need a motion. I'm going to close the floor of the public hearing. Need a motion to approve resolution number 27-2021.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second by Mr. McCain and Mr. Holloway. Any discussion?
I'd like to thank Councilman McCain for his efforts in pushing this and moving this forward. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. McCain. All in favor of resolution number 27-2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 27-2021 passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone that came and spoke on behalf of Mr. Sarbanes. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is resolution number 28-2021, authorizing the acting county executive to accept a grant award from the Maryland State Department of Education in the amount of $25,000 for Early Childhood Advisory Council Quality Improvement. And we have Ms. Lori Carter here, Director of Planning, Zoning, and Community Development, and Ms. Dawn Scher, Grants Coordinator, if there are any questions.
Right, need a motion to approve resolution number 28-2021.
So moved.
Got a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor of resolution number 28-2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 28-2021 passed unanimously. Ms. Hurley.
The next item for business is resolution number 29-2021. This is authorizing the acting county executive to accept a grant award from the Maryland State Department of Education in the amount of $130,000 for promoting positive outcomes for infants and toddlers. And again, we have Ms. Lori Carter here, Director of Planning, Zoning, and Community Development, and Ms. Dawn Scher here, Grants Coordinator, if there are any questions.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 29-2021.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a few questions.
Ms. Ackley.
Do-
Can you all come up here, please? If you would, introduce yourselves.
Lori Carter, the Planning Director for Wicomico County.
Yes.
And Dawn Scher, Grant Coordinator with Wicomico County.
Okay, Ms. Ackley.
So the $130,000 grant, that is going to the Early Childhood Advisory Council, or that is going to the local management board, or something separate?
It comes through the local management board, and then it's actually, most of it is contracted out to Salisbury University for a home visiting program called ABC, Attachment and Biobehavioral Catch-Up Program.
Okay.
They're just in the beginning processes of it, but that's the majority of the money. Then smaller amounts go to the library for site coordinators to implement the parent education information centers and the early childhood fair that happens at the mall each year.
When the library opens, I guess it was allotted to, was that the same entity it was allotted to last year?
Yes.
It's a repeat.
Okay. And they had positive outcomes?
Yes.
So, and it's the first of 3 years. And this is the second now.
All right, so it's the board that approves this, the Early Childhood Advisory Council. They approve who the contract service will go to?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
The Early Childhood Advisory Council, they approve who the $130,000 is allotted to?
It's my understanding that that's something that is done through, and again, there are some parts of the grant that happened prior to myself or Dawn. But from what we have been able to research, it appears that it was done in conjunction with.
That advisory council.
That is correct.
They're involved with planning for the original application, but we haven't gone back to them because it's still following by the same parameters that MSD approved. It's the same plan.
This is not something the public school wanted to?
No.
We haven't seen anything that shows that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Do you have any more questions for Ms. Carter? Thank you, Ms. Carter and Ms.
Thank you,
Scher.
sir.
Thanks.
All in favor of resolution number 29-2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 29-2021 passed unanimously. Ms. Hurley.
Next is Resolution Number 30-2021, authorizing the acting county executive to accept emergency rental assistance program grant award funding from the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development in amount up to $7,380,680 for citizens needing emergency rental assistance. And we have Mr. Jesse Drewer here with the Department of Planning, Zoning, and Community Development, if there are any questions.
Okay. Need a motion to approve resolution number 30-2021.
So moved.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would be abstaining before we get started, just so you know.
Mr. Cannon?
I'll be abstaining.
You'll be abstaining?
Thank you.
As will I, as on the board of the Shore Up, who is a recipient.
Okay.
And I'm no longer on the board of Habitat for Humanity, so I will not be abstaining this time.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments? No questions or comments?
I would ask one.
Yeah, Mr. Cannon.
Part of the body of the text mentioned the fact that you're waiting for guidance from the state, but then further on, it appeared as if there was guidance from the state. So I'm assuming that now we're at that position where we recognize how the funds will be distributed.
Yes, currently, right now, we know how the funds will be distributed to our subrecipients. The exact policy guide of who qualifies and the income level still hasn't been released yet. We're expecting that by the middle to the end of this month when the grant awards are announced.
So for the record, is this a pass-through grant, or is it going to be handled by one of our departments?
It'll be handled by me and our department,
Okay.
Planning and Zoning.
All right. Any more questions?
How are we with the previous rental assistance grant? Are all of those funds been allocated?
They have been allocated, but they have not currently been spent. The previous rounds, we've spent approximately $700,000 so far through the previous rounds. And from guidance from the state, those previous funds will be set aside for future projects in favor of this because there are different regulations with this money being state of Maryland only. So the regulations are the state can have varying regulations, whereas the other money was federal.
Okay.
So there's a lot more income verification, a lot more forms. So this allows us more flexibility in reaching wide numbers of people, along with this covers utilities. So
When is the deadline?
for the application,
Yes.
Okay.
And when does the money have to be used up?
the application was submitted last Friday when it was due, the deadline was. They're expecting grant awards by the 15th of this month.
Okay.
And expenditures have to be started by May 1st, if not sooner. And we currently have a deadline of July 30th for 50% expenditure and 65% expenditure by September 30th. However, we are, due to there is knowledge of more money coming down the line for, expected for foreclosure and other assistance, that those deadlines are just set there right now, but they're expected to be pushed back like the previous rounds were.
All right. Any more questions for Mr. Dewar?
So will these,
Ms. Ackley?
I was just wondering if the utility assistance, is this going to be paid directly to the landlord or the owner of the property, or is this going to be to the tenant themselves?
As we currently know, if the utility is considered a part of the rent and it is listed, then that will be paid to the landlord. And if it is a separate utility bill, as a electric bill essentially may not be, or that nature, it will be paid directly to the company. And we do not have any guidance yet if we will be paying directly to the tenant or to the landlord, but it's expected to be the landlord right now.
All right.
I'd only say, we've had the opportunity to work with the subrecipients, Salisbury Neighborhood Housing, Shore Up, and Habitat for Humanity, and they are doing an excellent job as far as following the guidelines and doing the best they can to make sure these funds are getting where they need. It's 3 excellent agencies.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Any more questions? All in favor of resolution number 30-2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 30-2021 passing unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Ms. Hurley.
Next is a submission of a reappointment to the Wicomico County Personnel Board. In accordance with Charter Sections 315B and 603, the acting county executive has submitted a reappointment to the Personnel Board. The Personnel Board serves as a formal grievance review board to hear and decide appeals from any personnel actions as defined in the personnel rules, and advises county officials on matters concerning the personnel rules and regulations, and reports to the county executive and county council on the operation of the personnel system. Resolution number 31-2021 is confirming the reappointment of Debbie Moore to the Wicomico County Personnel Board.
Okay, need a motion to approve resolution number 31-2021.
So moved.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor of resolution number 31-2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 31-2021 passing unanimously. This time, we're going to open the floor to public comments. If you have a comment, please limit it to 3 minutes or less. Any presented material may be submitted to council members. If you do so, we need 10 copies. No derogatory remarks or personal attacks. So do we have any public comments? Ms. Ashante.
Good evening again. I just, after listening to the proclamation and all that went into it, I know there was a lot of work involved in it. And I want to thank Laura Hurley for working with my youngest daughter to get information and Sharon Morris. So this was I wasn't expecting all of that. So a lot of work went into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any more public comments? Anyone out in the hall? I saw Mr. Palmer. He usually speaks. Oh, there he is. He was out in the hall. Do you have anything? All right. This time we're going to close the floor to public comments, council comments. Mr. Holloway.
Yes, just to let the audience know and those folks in TV land, this Saturday is Mount Hermon Plow Days. Takes place at 10 a.m. at the Atkins Farm Market. The council all got invitations, and the invitation is open to anyone. It's a free event, other than the food and the vendors, of course. And most of the time they have a really nice crowd, and the weather looks like it's going to cooperate somewhat. That's at 10 a.m. And then another event on the east side at 9 a.m. is the Willards Little League kicks off their season. So they wanted me to remind everybody of that. So if anybody has a chance to stop down to either one of those events, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Mr. McCain.
Yeah, a couple comments. This evening, we've been able to give several proclamations. It's always nice as a council when we're able to recognize people that do so much for our community. And I wanted to thank the people from the library and the citizens that spoke on behalf of Senator Sarbanes. I think that was a very nice gesture that we were able to do to recognize the family, and I know it meant a lot to the family, and it meant a lot to a lot of his friends and community members that knew him well. And I thought Tony might mention this, and it kind of gets me choked up sometimes, but I did want to share this. I remember Tony Sarbanes one time had told me a story that when Paul had gone to Princeton, just keep in mind, coming from Salisbury, and going off to college, and he came home and told his father. Tony said he can still remember it. They were standing in the kitchen, and he told his father that he had been selected to be a Rhodes Scholar. And he said his father, just kind of got a little tear in his eye and said, only in America could that had happened. And, and he was right. Only in America could a first generation, Greek immigrant, and a few years later be selected a Rhodes Scholar, and which then catapulted him into a lifelong service to his country. So it was a nice thing that we did as a council, and I think very much appreciated by the community.
Yes.
And a second thing on a different note, I want to thank all the people that helped out this past weekend with the Salisbury Marathon. That is a huge event logistically. 26 miles of our county roads have to be blocked off, and law enforcement at all levels, from the city to the county to the state police, were involved. But the organizers of that event and all the volunteers to work all the water stations, and they have pacers. In fact, our own Lynn Sandy, I think Lynn's here somewhere with us this evening. There she is. She's one of the pacers, and so a lot of people were involved, and it was a great event. 1,000 people came to our community for that. And what's neat is, if you look at the list of people that participate, the vast majority are not local. I mean, people come from all over the country to participate in events like this and like our Seagull Century, and these are big economic, has a big economic impact in our local communities. So, but thanks to all those people that participated.
Did you participate?
I did. I ran the half marathon.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Any more council comments? Mr. Hastings.
First, we did have a moment of silence earlier, but I did want to recognize retired Judge Norma Lee Barkley. She was quite an amazing individual. Was always there, always around, always present, and just a wonderful person. So sorry to hear of her passing. Also, want to mention Senator Sarbanes. There's a whole lot I could say about why the library is important. I did want to very briefly say it. I started to say it while Tony was in the audience, but on the personal side, when my family we nearly lost our farm when I was growing up in the late 90s, we got to a point where we could, you were looking to, do we subdivide the land, or what can you do to try to get out of this hole? And anyone who knows who has a poultry industry, it's you got multiple mortgages, and it's a lot to keep up. So our family, we almost lost the farm, but had it not been for then Senator Paul Sarbanes stepping in to be able to work with Farm Credit to get us the loan we needed, that was a huge deal. So that was just one story that from one individual, but really amazing human being, and I'm very proud to know the Sarbanes family very well, and thank you all for voting for this.
Thank you. Ms. Ackley.
I wanted to thank Ms. Asante for coming, and thank you for your years of service. 58 years is amazing. That is true dedication. So thank you. And I also wanted to thank Mr. Palmer, Timothy Palmer, the local management board. I think he really, he took on quite a job, but he made it happen. He brought those kids together, and Councilman Hastings was right along cheering them, and it was great. I was so happy to see the kids. They're really excited. So thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Mr. Hastings, please.
Also did one more personal note. I did want to say thank all the folks who have reached out. My 5-year-old niece June was last week we found out she has leukemia.
All right, we'll keep her in our prayers.
I did want to say thank you to all the folks, especially.
I know it's hard.
The Mardella community. I'm proud to be a Mardella alumni, and I gotta say,
Good people there.
yeah, the great people who have gone out of their way to support my brother and their family. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. I did want to point out earlier that I previously served on the Board of Education for almost 5 years, and before getting elected on the county council in 2014, and Ms. Ashante was at nearly every single Board of Education meeting. Then get on the council in 2014, and she's at every single council meeting. And I attended a lot of city council meetings, and she's at those meetings. I don't know where she found all the time, but thank you for your 24 years. I don't know how you did it, but thank you. You have a well-deserved retirement. So. This time I need a motion and a second to adjourn from a legislative session to go into open work sessions, followed by closed work sessions pursuant to the general provisions article of Section 3-305B 1, 7, and 9, and Section 3-104 as follows: to conduct collective bargaining negotiations or to consider matters that relate to the negotiations, to protect the collective bargaining strategy, and to consult with legal counsel to protect the attorney-client privilege, and to discuss personnel matters pertaining to independent legal counsel to protect the confidentiality of the individuals, and to meet in the closed administrative session to discuss an internal auditor project update. I need a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Going into the open work session this time, we should have Ms. Victoria Spice to talk about the invasive species management program. Or Ms. Judith Stribling. There she is. And if you would, introduce yourselves.
Of course. Good evening. Thank you, Council, for having me tonight. Thank you for having us. My name is Victoria Spice. I am the Invasive Species Coordinator with the Lower Shore Land Trust. Judith wasn't able to join me this evening, but sends her regards. I was actually here a couple of months ago presenting an update to you all on the Invasive Species Initiative that you all have supported and the restoration underway at 2 of our parks within the county. And so tonight I am here to present a proposal that was submitted to the county executive's office that we were made aware of this afternoon that it has been approved. And I wanted to give the council an opportunity to review the proposal and answer any questions that you all may have. So I have here with me tonight Jim Caleo of the Maryland Department of Agriculture Plant Protection and Weed Management Division. He's helped to establish 15 of these programs within the county, or I'm sorry, within the state. And I also have with me Julie Pinto Schwab and Rick Glasgow from FSA and the Soil Conservation District, just to show their support and answer any questions that you may have about how not only will this program benefit our county, but also some of our farmers within the county. So I am going to turn it over to Jim and kind of go back and forth, and if you guys have any questions, please let us know.
Good evening. As Victoria stated, my name is Jim Caleo. I'm an administrative officer with the State of Maryland's Department of Agriculture and a weed control specialist. I'm here to present to you the opportunities that the State of Maryland supports a weed control program in Wicomico County. A little bit of background: Maryland State Laws 9-401 through 406 and regulations 15.060502-04. It's a list of weeds that the state it's a list of weeds in these laws that require a property manager and owners to control. There are 15 counties in the state of Maryland that have active weed control programs. Ms. Keely Wells will be the contact person for MDA here in the county. A weed control program will benefit Wicomico County. It helps to provide information, education, management, and achieve control of noxious and invasive weeds to local landowners and property managers. Provides technical support, management plans, billable services, such as FSA, CRP, CREP, open space areas, wildlife, wildflowers, landowners, managers of land, and reclaiming land and sometimes reviving native species. Phragmites control, assisting in weed control maintenance for county facilities, stormwater drainage and retention ponds. These programs can be without cost to the county budgets. Potential revenues will offset the program. In summary, as a representative of the state of Maryland, I will support a weed control program in Wicomico County and provide whatever resources are available through the state. In addition to knowledge, education, and experience, to have a successful weed control program here in the county.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Can you go over this draft that you gave us?
Absolutely. So that was put together, Jim and I put that together just based off of, I think it was Kent County, and when they started up their program. So essentially, there's going to be the $30,000 that we've asked for is seed starter money. So that's going to be money to support the equipment, so to purchase a rig to go onto the back of one of the trucks, and as well as some of the personnel costs. And so you can see at the bottom of the budget that there is the potential revenue. So that is based off a conservative number that Jim came up with on potential state highway administration contracts, as well as private landowner work that we would be working through. So as you can see, it's a great program because it's self-sustaining. So with a little bit of seed starting money after a couple of years, we foresee it being profitable, and the money can be rolled back into the program for equipment upgrades, personnel, additional personnel, and so forth. So it doesn't have to come out of the county's budget every year.
Okay. Ms. Ackley?
I was just wondering, with the example of the revenue, with the private landowner, is it something that the landowner would contact you to do weed control? Yes. Or, okay, if they had like a retaining pond in their development and...
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So what's great about partnering with FSA and Soil Conservation District is they get landowners in and out of their door every day that have these issues with, some of their conservation reserve programs or so forth. So they would actually contact this coordinator and be able to contract with them specifically to do the work. So the money would be rolled back into the program that way. And it's usually, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's typically a subsidized rate. It's a little bit cheaper than if they were to go to an outside contractor, because we're able to support the program mostly through state highway administration contracts. So it's a great benefit to the landowners in the area, as well as just for the county to have this amazing resource of having a weed control expert at their fingertips to help manage the county parks, any type of county infrastructure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments? All right, I want to thank you all for being here, and maybe we'll see this on the budget.
Okay, that would be great.
Mr. Basoda presents it.
Okay, great. Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Mr. Miller here. Yes, there he is. Next on the agenda is proposed fee increases to recreation programs. Mr. Steve Miller, Director of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism, should be here in a minute. You would introduce yourselves for the record?
Yep, James Simmons, Recreation Superintendent.
Katie Rouse, Deputy Director of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism. Good evening, everybody. We're here tonight to talk about some proposed fee increases for some of our recreation programs. As most of you are aware, minimum wage was increased the beginning of this year to $11.75 an hour. This minimum wage increase is one of the two major factors that we considered when deciding what to set our fee rates at for the upcoming fiscal year. In addition to the minimum wage, we have COVID regulations that are put on to us for our child care programs. We have to meet these regulations to operate the sites, and it affects both the number of people we can accommodate at each site, number of children, and the required staff members at each site. Excuse me. With that, James and I are available to answer any questions that anybody might have on the proposed fee increases.
If I could add real quick too, a couple of notes on this. we keep an eye on what other camps are in the area in our county and what their prices are looking at when it comes to our child care programs. And for the majority of our programs, on average, we're about 25% less. So the mission for us is to provide that affordable option for folks. And then the other piece to that is we've got a great scholarship program in place in partnership with a couple of outside nonprofits that help fund that annually. So if someone has trouble, meeting the registration fee, we've got some opportunities for them to be able to help out. So if there's any specific questions on any programs, we're happy to answer.
Ms. Holloway?
You mentioned COVID obligations. Has there been any COVID funding come your way through any of this due to there is COVID obligations?
When we ran the Learning Center at the Civic Center, we did get some CARES Act funding for that. But as far as the summer camp goes, we have not received anything at this time.
Not received anything that would help out with this? Okay.
Exactly.
That was part of my question, what Mr. Councilman Holloway said, is that we're going to be looking at alternative childcare because parents can't go back to work and kids are still in school, and how's that going to look? And I know in the beginning of COVID, there was you had a child care center set up briefly, but I think that's going to be coming down the line again because we're still not back in school full time and parents need to get back to work. So I'm just wondering if you can use any of that COVID, if there's more COVID funding that could allow for you to do that.
It's certainly something we can look into, exploring reopening a program like that, and we'll definitely take that in consideration and look into that for sure. People do need to get back to work, absolutely, and we're hoping our summer camps can serve in that capacity this summer for sure. But yeah, who knows what the fall brings and the rest of the spring, so it's definitely something we can look at.
Okay. All right, thanks.
All right. Any more questions? Mr. Cannon?
I'm assuming that this will be coming in front of us with the fiscal year 22 budget. Is that correct, or are we planning to do any increases before that time?
So right now, the summer camps kind of straddle the fiscal year, so the registration is open for those now. So we are currently collecting fees at the increased rate. Our plan would be that if the fees were not approved, we would be refunding the difference back to the people that have already registered for the camps. The karate and the junior golf would not go into effect until July 1st.
So, we'll see some type of legislation before the council?
Yes, this definitely has to come back for council approval.
Okay.
Are all these existing programs, existing fees, or is there anything brand new to the county?
The only thing that's new, it's not a new program, but we're looking to offer before care and after care with our summer camps. So it's basically just an extension of those hours. And then there would be an additional fee for campers that wanted to take advantage of that.
Okay, all right. Yes, this will definitely need to come back to council for approval, and we hope to have that ready within the next couple of meetings.
Okay.
Mr. Hastings?
Mr. Cannon took my question, but I will say there are, if anyone is listening, this is not exactly what I'm looking at is over 100 different fees or ways that we charge for different programs and a lot of things that we offer. This is only a couple changes and only a minor amount of increases here and there. So at first glance, when I was looking at it originally, I was like, I don't understand where there's any changes. It all looks the same as before, but there are a few, and I do appreciate your work.
Right. What I saw was minor changes due to the wage increase, but then I'm looking at the Westside Community Center membership for youth in Westside Community. Looks like you went from an annual fee of $225 to, I guess it would end up being $600?
It ends up roughly meeting about $450. So that's actually a typo on the list that we had given you. It should read Westside Community Center After School Program.
Okay.
For a 9-month period. And we did have to, or we're looking to make that transition to a monthly fee. And when you look at those numbers, obviously affordable care is what we're looking to do. In that section of the community, we've always tried to keep the prices as low as possible. And when you look at those numbers, it ends up being roughly a third of what our Kids Club program would be, keeping it significantly affordable there.
All right, when I saw monthly fee, I was multiplying times 12 months.
Yeah, that's my fault on the
Okay.
typo there. It should be after school.
Okay. And any more questions? Mr. Holloway?
Did you say you're already charging these fees, these increased fees?
We had to open registration, so at this point we are, and then our plan would be if they're not approved, we would refund the difference back to the campers.
I guess my question would be, if you were planning on charging these increased fees, why didn't it come to the council earlier? I mean, I haven't had any questions from the public about it, but there could have been questions from the public about increased fees, and the council wouldn't have not known anything about it. So I was wondering why this didn't come to us before you started doing that. I suppose you assume it'll be approved. You'll have to go through the process of returning money if it wasn't, but why did you all decide to do that without, I mean, somebody give you the approval to do that?
Basically, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to have the summer camps until very, very recently. So with the COVID regulations, it all kind of happened very fast. We were at a point where we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to do the programs, and we wanted to get registration open for people as soon as possible so that they could have care options for the summer. We looked at it from several options as far as what we had to do to fix it if we didn't get the prices approved, and giving the refunds is what we saw as, instead of going back to people and asking for more money later after they had already registered, we felt like giving the refund was a more palatable option.
Who authorized you to go ahead and start charging more?
I was out of.
Yeah, we worked with.
You can go to the podium so you can be heard.
Good evening, Steve Miller. I'm the director for Rec and Park. So we consulted with our finance office as far as the process. And again, as Katie mentioned, the real challenge with this particular case is that the bulk of the summer program is in FY22. And so this is a tricky thing because we're registering now, but it's for next fiscal year. And I think to your point on the timing of it, I think you're right. I think in an ideal world, this would have been done over the winter so that when it was time for registration. But as Katie noted, with COVID, most things have been uncertain, and we just didn't know to what extent, what would the requirements be for staffing, and all that impacts what we have to charge. So it was late, and I'll take responsibility for that, but we felt like this was the most appropriate recommendation we could make.
I appreciate your answer, Steve. I mean, these are unusual times, and a couple of months ago, or even a month ago, you don't even know if you can have these programs or not, or what they're going to look like. So it's just, I understand that. It's challenging to try to. We all want to plan, but it's hard to plan when the parts are moving on a daily basis. So I understand that.
Yeah, it's been a challenge, and it's a challenge for the public as well. We're trying to accommodate and provide programs and safe programs, but also not have the extra burdens run away from us where we're having to come back to the council and to the executive task for increased appropriations and whatever else. So we're trying to strike that balance. It's a challenge.
Does that answer your question?
He answered a question.
Okay.
One, I think, Mr. Miller, I appreciate you acting quickly on this. I know parents are really scrambling right now and desperately trying to find childcare for now and for the summer. So I see the urgency in getting that together. So thank you.
I would say, too, desperate times take desperate measures. I'm so glad to see that you put aside red tape just for one time to make this happen, because, as everyone said, it's unpredictable. Something had to be done, and you did it, so I applaud you for that. Thank you very much.
Well, Ms. Ackley mentioned childcare, and I will say this, that the Kids Club program, when my kids were at North Salisbury School, was an excellent program. We didn't participate in anything during the summer, but I would assume that the summer camps are just as great as that program was. So I would highly recommend it, the Kids Club, if families need it. So, any more questions and comments? Ms. Hurley, when does this come back to us?
I'll work with Mr. Wilbur on getting either a resolution or a legislative bill drafted for council's consideration.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Charter Section 201, compositions of districts and redistricting committee. Mr. Paul Wilbur, the county attorney, and Mr. Anthony Gutierrez, director of Board of Elections.
Good evening, Paul Wilbur.
Good evening, Anthony Gutierrez, Board of Elections.
Good evening.
Well, as we know, every 10 years we have a census. And when we have a census, it's time to redraw election districts so that population will be equal in each of those districts. And I think Anthony can speak to what he knows about the information that we will receive on the census, what kind of timeline we're on, and then I'll talk about how we can deal with it.
Okay.
Thank you. In a regular non-pandemic election cycle, we would have liked to have had the final council district data by October, maybe November 1st at the very latest. Obviously with different challenges regarding the pandemic, but also we in our office know that 2022 elections are going to be non-regular for several other reasons. First, as Paul mentioned, the data, which should have come to us from the federal government a few days ago on April 1st. There's different stories. Is it coming out end of September, end of October? Those are speculations. Obviously, we were hoping much earlier than that, but we need to be prepared for later than that. So in discussing things with Mr. McKenzie in the planning office and Mr. Wilbur, our office would certainly like to have our final data ready. November 1st would be much better, but December 1st, we probably could make it work in an efficient, accurate way. I mentioned the non-regular 2022. The State Board of Elections is working on automating the process for redistricting this year. As we know with any new process, there's always issues. It usually doesn't happen 100% accurate. And even in a regular cycle, there's always anomalies that need to be chased down. Which side of the street is a house or a neighborhood, et cetera. So with this new automated process, which today is not in place, we're waiting on that from the state to be implemented. Another thing with 2022 is that the state is procuring the next generation of electronic poll books for us. Again, we won't see those pieces of equipment till late this year as far as this tentative schedule, which means that our staff will have a lot of tasks ahead right after the beginning of the year in January 2022 to train ourselves on the equipment, to test them, to learn how to train the election judges, which makes our training even more extensive next spring. So we won't have a lot of time after the February 22nd filing deadline next year, as it stands now. A couple weeks after that is when the state board starts providing us with the reports to start proofing to lock down the database for ballot production to begin for the June 2022 primary election. So back to the timeline, again, our preference would very much be November 1st, but we could certainly work with probably December 1st. Give us time this year as much as possible to get as much work done, and proofing. Accuracy, obviously, is the key to ensuring that voters do not get the wrong ballots because we accidentally put them in the wrong district for whatever reason, and that's where your proofing comes in. The more passes you have, the less tired you are, the less distracted you are. So if we could do those things in December and January versus February and March, when we're trying to do several other things, we have a much, much better, much more accurate product.
Thank you. So where that brings the council into the picture is we need a redistricting commission as required by the charter. Looking back, Laura was able to pull up the resolutions from 10 years ago, and at that time, it looks like there was a 7-person redistricting commission appointed by the county council. So I think that's the job that you all have, and I would say the sooner that we create that commission, the better. Then we can meet with that commission and at least educate them about their job. Now, where this gets a little tricky is the compressed time frame we're working on, because Anthony, as he said, he would like to have the redistrict information completed by November 1st. Perhaps he could work with December 1st, but we may not get the census data until September or October. So what I would ask of the council is, when you appoint your redistricting commission, it needs to be people who may have to work rapidly day after day to get this job done, because we're tight. We're really tight. Just it could be a matter of days, maybe weeks, to get the job done. And of course, we talked with Laura about a timeline with the council, because the commission's going to give a redistricting plan to the council, and then you decide if you want to adopt it. And it's, from the time it's presented, it's 70 days to when it would be effective. So the way we calculated it, looked like the December 7th meeting is when we have to have the council hopefully adopting a redistricting plan. So it's cleared that 70-day limit and is effective before February 22nd, when candidates have to put their candidacy paperwork in. So it is tight. Now, what could completely throw this out of whack is if the census data doesn't arrive, say, until November. There's a potential scenario here that we just can't get the job done for this next election in '22. Back in 2010, I think the commission received the information in 2011, and I think they were actually created in 2012, but they didn't have an election until 2014, so it was a much more expanded time frame to get this done. Here, I think we need a commission ready to go, hoping that the data comes in so that they can do their job quickly and bring it back to the council.
Ms. Harley, how did the council choose the commission previously?
I am not sure. I have not spoken. Mr. Holloway may
Ms.
know.
Holloway, do you know?
Each council person picked one.
Each council person picked one? I guess we could do the same.
Unless somebody, and from what I remember, each council person picked one, and
You need to press your microphone.
He knew he had to do
They won't
something.
give me a live mic, and I appreciate that. Each council person picked one unless one council person did not want to pick somebody or they couldn't do it, and then somebody else picked two. So that's kind of how we did it.
Okay. And we can form a commission, but we don't know if they have anything to do.
Other than educate them, you know,
Right.
Frank and Anthony and I can have them ready, but then they sit until we have census data.
So worst case scenario, Mr. Wilbur, we don't get the numbers that we're looking for until December or later.
All right.
So do we extend that another 4 years before we do a redistricting?
Yeah, I think then essentially you have plenty of time to do redistricting.
You wouldn't do it in the medium
No,
between
I
this
don't
election
think,
and the next one, or would you do it within the next 2 years? Because
I haven't researched this, but my gut reaction is I don't think it would be wise to hold a primary election on old district lines and then a general election on new district lines. You know?
I understand what you're saying there.
Yeah. We are cutting it close for candidates
Yes, we are.
with the deadline of February 22nd, especially if somebody lives near a border and they're thinking that their house may be in a new district.
Thank goodness Frank McKenzie has an excellent computer program that once he has the data, it really locates where people are actually house by house. So the commission will have that kind of data to work with to level out the population in the districts.
Okay. All right.
So that's your job.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes, Mr. McKenzie, if you could give us just a brief overview on your perspective as far as how you see this developing?
Well, yes, is this on?
Yeah, he's got to
Yeah,
talk loud.
you can hear you better if you drop the mask.
Okay. The data will come to us, as I said, it could be very late in the year. The first thing that I'll have to do is to go through and validate the data. A lot of times there are errors in the data, and we need to find out where they are. In our last go-round, there were people that they allocated living in the Kmart shopping center or in the median strips, in the highway. So we need to find out where those errors are and then see what we can do to mitigate any impacts they may have. Once we do that, then I'll go through and do some preliminary analysis to see, based on this data, what are the numbers based on the existing districts. And you'll see some districts may have to grow much more than other districts. So then we'll start the data I have, you can go through block by block and figure out how many people are in that block and start moving them around as minimal as possible is my recommendation in order to move this project along. The last go-round, they went through and did a complete rewrite of the districts to kind of even out the lines. But I think with this time, if you keep it to a minimum impact, there'll be less possibility of error and it go a lot faster.
Any more questions or comments? Mr. Hastings?
Question as far as the U.S. Census data, do we get that does the federal government release that all at once, all states all at once, California and Maryland at the same time? Or I'm assuming our info is already ready and sitting on somebody's desk and they're just waiting for California to wrap up or something like that. Is that what's happening?
Frank or Anthony, I think, could best answer that.
Again, in normal times, your census date is April 1st of 1990, 2000, 2010, and 1 year later, April 1st of 91, 2001 is when the federal government releases all that data at once, normal, regular times.
Once that initial data comes, there will be another release of data that's used for redistricting. The first one is just for population. The second one is for redistricting, and that's where they start breaking out, the racial classifications of the data. So, and that comes later after the initial release, which they haven't even got to yet.
And Mr. McKenzie, did you just say you had to verify the federal data?
We look at it. There will be some anomalies in this thing. As I mentioned, they had people living in Kmart.
Okay.
And so we need to figure out, if we can find those things, we try to figure out what we do to deal with it.
Mr. Hastings, you have another question?
I'll just say also that I do think that we need to, first of all, so it said we need to be able to have, in my mind, a group together, a commission together, sooner than later, have them ready to go. I think the original deadline that I remember hearing was it was going to be that we would have had data potentially by now, in late March at the earliest, or April. The challenge is obviously that we don't want to get to the point where we could have a very real situation where candidates would be declaring and not even know if they're even in that district, and that would be a major problem. So that's why we have a compressed timeline. I would say that, last time I remember even looking at data, I remember kind of doing a rough calculation, but District 2 with its population was about nearly or around 40% larger than District 4, my district, which is rather large. So I guess the other question, Mr. McKenzie, would be then, I know when you get to the process, there's I remember looking at the notes that Dr. Basehart had shared years ago when he was on the commission, but basically there's an appointment, you divide up the population and then give it a variance of 25% or something like that. What's the amount? I don't want to get to the point where right now, where my district is rather small and condensed compared to in population size compared to other districts. So is there a variance difference, or who sets those?
Well, first you go through and you take the new total population and you divide that by 5. And so that'll give you your ideal population for each of the districts. Now, it's almost impossible to hit those numbers, excuse me, right on the point. So they allow you a 5% deviation above or below your ideal population. So you start going through and figuring out, where the populations with the highest numbers of people, and start working around that and try to kind of balance these districts around. As you go through and build these districts, the population changes, the racial characteristics change. So, we have one minority district that we have to deal with.
Did the council members think they can find a member to serve by the next meeting?
Yeah, I think if we're tasked with that, we could do that, or certainly.
I know we're
the
cutting
next
it
2
close,
meetings.
and be nice. We could find 7 members. Mr. Hastings.
I was going to propose, I wanted to follow, I really enjoyed Governor Hogan's plan. I really think that that's where the nation needs to go, into a direction where it's independent redistricting. And I don't remember exactly, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but basically, if we were to do something based off of what they were doing, I forget the way the governor's office is doing it, but basically you could have 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and 3 unaffiliated, or something, a 9-member commission. And I think which is roughly what the governor's office has done, to be able to take partisan politics out of it and to really look analytically at area and just equally analyze data. I think that's where we need to go as a whole, as a country. But I would love for us to set that example, to do that in Wicomico.
Thought, Mr. Cannon?
Yes, because the whole time we've been talking about this, I mean, the only question that I've had is, how do you avoid undue influence, or even the perception of undue influence, when you have the council members who are picking the individuals who are going to pick the districts? I mean, the first thing a council member did, whatever you do, make sure you put me in here, don't you? This guy's going to run against me. He's across the street, so I want that boundary right down the middle of the road. How do you literally avoid that? Is that what you're suggesting? How do you avoid that?
They are.
How do you ensure autonomy of that board after they're picked?
Good point. The charter is really silent on this. It just says the council will pick a redistricting commission.
Yeah.
That's all it says.
So
you can pick
the council instructs, and the charter instructs us to do it.
Yes, to follow the charter, you pick the commission, you decide how many are on it. If you want to do it Josh's way, then that's up to you, how you want to do it. But remember, ultimately, the commission comes back to you with a plan. You are the final adopters of these districts. So it comes back to the council ultimately.
Would the council, would the members of this commission, would they be held to some type of accountability, whereas it would be required that they report any type of undue influence that they feel may be used to persuade their decision?
I would say that if there were such an event.
It's not in the charter. I'm just wondering what we should.
Right. I would say that it would be reported and brought to the Ethics Commission.
Mm-hmm.
And we could also do a pledge, as we did with the county.
Sure.
Charter review.
Right. Anytime there's an allegation of undue influence, that's Ethics Commission territory.
Right. Yeah. Right. So
you'd be advising them? You would be advising the commission?
Right. I think it would be a team effort
Okay.
of Anthony, Frank, and I to sort of give the commission their charge, if you will. Yeah.
And you'd be doing that with the training too.
Yeah. I mean, they need to understand sort of the legal requirements of setting up these districts.
Any more thoughts?
Well, it kind of sounds like maybe the next meeting, we might need to do a work session on, which might be pretty quick, but how do we want to select? Do we want to do is what was done 10 years ago, each person pick one, or do we, adopt the methodology that the governors recommended, that Josh mentioned, or something else? I mean, we have that, as Mr. Wilbur said, the charter just simply says we appoint.
Right.
So we're not,
So,
we don't have to do the same thing was done a decade ago.
Well, we can put it on the agenda as a work session, but if you want to consider possible commission members to.
The problem with considering committee members at this point is we really don't we don't know what to tell them what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. I think we need a timeline first, don't we? Spelled out pretty clearly from Laura's office.
Well,
so we can tell them, what's involved.
Well, Mr. Wilbur suggested, I thought, that we could get them appointed and then start training them.
That would be my suggestion, and then they're ready whenever the census data shows up.
The first question they're going to ask is, how much time is it going to take? We have no direction.
That's right. Say that if the data shows up at the end of October, then they are going to need to meet very regularly to finish this job. So it's brought to you and ultimately to Anthony.
But we're not going to have any more direction 2 weeks from now, a month from now, or 2 months from now, or possibly even 3 months from now. So we might as well get them appointed as soon as we can. But I think we do have one interim step there. We got to decide what method. And then maybe the following meeting, we can do the actual appointments.
Okay, we can put it down as a work session for the next meeting. And then keep this in mind that we've got to move on it pretty quick, regardless of what the timeline's going to be, because we don't know, but we have to be ready. So, all right, any more questions or comments on this?
Yeah, time restraints aside, is there any type of job description out there that anyone is familiar with so that we can at least say, hey, here's what you'll be doing?
We could create one. I'm not aware of one.
Something from the last commission that
I could check our file, but I haven't come across anything yet.
because they had to have been given a directive, right?
Yeah. I mean, certainly, if somebody is being thought of, they would like to know what is expected of them.
Well, like Joe says,
Dr. Bazart might have.
They're going to ask what right away.
He's pretty good with keeping records, so he might have a.
Was he on the commission?
Yes.
Okay. I bet he does have something.
Well,
And there's still minutes from those meetings as well that you can go through and see how the meetings were conducted and what they're discussing.
And those are documented where? Or
They're on your website. There's a redistricting commission page on the county council website.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Hastings.
That's right.
The last thought I'd say, I actually think we did a really good job with the process. It was our first time doing it that way, but the Charter Review Committee, I feel like we came out with a good group of folks, and they're active. And, I would love to see us clean up that process, but I'd love to see us go with something like that where we could really feel like we've engaged the public to I like that we put it out to the public, hey, are you interested? And we got a lot of really wonderful applications from that. It'd be nice if we could do something like that. And it doesn't sound like there's immediately the need, at least the next 2 months. I think we could have it done within the next 2 months, have something put together. But I thought that process was really helpful. And I think before next meeting, maybe I could grab the governor's plan, at least share that with Laura and others. And here's ways that we could do it.
Okay, we can talk about it at the next meeting. We'll have a work session then.
So if we're looking to maybe possibly adopt this governor's plan or anything like that, would that require us to put put number item 34 on the list for the Charter Review Committee? I'm assuming there would have to be a change to the charter to do that?
No.
It's not in the charter.
Charter just simply says you
Select
appoint a
committee.
commission, unless we want to do that, but.
But I don't know if this involves doing away with that and changing the whole process.
No, I think that given the way that's written, I think we could do, like in my mind, I'm imagining 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, 3 unaffiliated, and just go through a process and have anyone apply and then have them look up their affiliation, and then we pick, then we all can rank that, kind of like we did with the redistricting commission.
We can talk about
that. The other commission.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem if each member chose somebody, so we'll talk about it at the next work session. There are several different options. Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Wilbur and Mr. Gutierrez. All right, this time we're going to go into a closed work session, and after a 5-minute break.